Well, hey there everyone, welcome to this update video. I thought it would make a lot of sense for me to just film a bit of a chit chat with you today, because this is going to be my last live filmed and uploaded video for the next little while. I've got a whole bunch of stuff pre-filmed, don't you worry, you will be getting videos, but they're just going to be either voiceovers or done, pre-filmed, and they won't be kind of live and update and relax like this. I really wanted to take the time to chat and update with you for those of you who enjoy these types of live chats, and if you want to, grab a snack, a coffee, hang out for the next 10-15 minutes, I love that. And if you'd love to leave a comment down below as we're talking, I love that too. If you're here for the regular programming, I'm totally cool if you click out right now if this is not your thing, but I do know and chat with a bunch of you on the regular who've been around for a long time, who follow me through my life progression, and I thought it would be nice just for us to kind of keep in touch with what happens behind the camera lens, as there's often tons that go on that I don't talk about, or I don't feel the need to really speak about. So I guess a couple of things. I have been doing a lot of new stuff, a lot of new stuff that makes me feel very anxious, sometimes uncomfortable, sometimes apprehensive, indecisive, worrying, I suppose. And I mean, in the grand scheme of life, I'm sure these are not big deal things, but as someone who is an introvert, as someone who is a bit of a closeted perfectionist, if you will, a lot of little things feel like big things. And if you know me in real life, my kind of throw around motto is always, it's not a big deal. And on the surface level, I feel like I am, or I portray myself as a very relaxed, easygoing person as much as I can, so people don't see the freaky insides where I'm very, careful, and I need a sense of security and certainty and sureness about myself or what I'm doing before I make the next step. A couple of years ago, someone commented on my channel with a very accurate description I still recall to this day, and they mentioned that they saw me as an extroverted introvert, which at the time sounded like a really odd oxymoron, but now that I've thought about it, over the years, it's actually very true. I feel like in a lot of situations in life, being an extrovert, because we're, as human beings, such a social group, it's a very welcome thing. Like, being an extrovert generally gets you through a lot of doors, into a lot of doors, into a lot of doors. Yeah, I guess so. That just sounds like an odd term now that I thought about it. Just gets you a little further, perhaps a little easier through life when you're more of a people person. And I'm not saying I am antisocial by any means, but being an introvert, I do have a sense of my socializing limits. For example, after X amount of hours, I am done talking to people. I need to recharge in my own little bubble. Being a little hermit, I'm totally happy being a little hermit. New things happening. So I am learning how to drive, which is freaky, like I could not imagine. I didn't think driving was a big deal, and it's probably not a big deal because so many people drive, but holy is it freaky. I've had 3 proper lessons now with the driving instructor, and I've gone, practicing a couple times with my parents, most of my dad, because he's the only person who keeps his cool when I'm on the road. And I've driven to the corner store to get milk and stuff like that, but driving is freaky. I'm still a very, very nervous driver, and it might surprise you that I don't know how to drive because, like, I'm old. Well, not that old, but probably older than what you think someone who doesn't know how to drive would be. So it wasn't really until now, this summer, that I started learning to drive, because it's going to become a necessity. So driving is so freaky, you guys. I'm constantly afraid I'm gonna run over a squirrel. I'm going to sideswipe the car parked on the side of the street. And you know, nowadays in the kind of suburby areas, everybody parks on the street. Like, both sides of the roads is lined or are lined with cars, and then it is a single lane through the center of just a regular, you know, street. And if there's another car coming towards you, I am freaking out. So there's a lot of new things, and driving certainly makes me very anxious, especially just turning and shoulder checking, and don't sideswipe a pedestrian, don't run over a cyclist. When do you stop before a yellow light? Do you always stop before a yellow light? Making all these turns, and just so many things. I feel like I don't have enough brain to process everything I'm supposed to when I'm driving. But those of you who are pro drivers, or you remember driving for the first time, throw me a bone, leave me some tips, just something. I'm still practicing, still got a ways to go before I can get my solo driving license, which means I can drive without a supervisor next to me, which is essentially just someone with a full license. And then after that, after I take my second test, then I'm a full-fledged driver. But that's going to be a little while. I still have to do my first test. So there's driving. That's new. Makes me super anxious. Like, my palms are sweaty, like my back is sweating, and all I did was drive to the corner store. Other new things you might want to know, I am currently also looking for my next job. I am still in the same career field. I mentioned about 8 months ago perhaps that I started a new job, and from that one forward, I changed careers. So that was my first job in a completely new career field, in public service, and again, freaky. But I made through, you know, that contract. That was a contract position for a couple of months. Took some time off, hence why you got more videos for a little while. And now I've got to look for my next contract, you know, and it's scary. Like I mentioned, I'm the type of person who needs a certain sense of sureness, confidence, if you will, and sense of security before making my next step in whatever that I'm doing. And I guess on a very basic level, you can see it as a feel of failure, perhaps, or you can see it as just, you know, being a closeted perfectionist, needing to be good enough to do good in whatever that I'm doing. And that doesn't always gel with new things, especially new careers, because, well, you're never going to be great at something that you've never done, that you're just starting out with. And that makes a lot of logical sense, but it can't help the sense of anxiousness and nervousness around the whole situation. So I don't have a contract yet, but we're working on it. And the prospect, this whole process just makes me really anxious every day. Like, I'm on the board and I'm looking for things, and you know, you're nervous that you're not going to be good enough for the position because you're new, obviously. At the same time, I think it goes, my apprehension or anxiety about being good enough prevents me from doing the things I'm supposed to do because you fear you're not going to do it well. And it's not, I don't know if it's about upsetting other people, or it's really about my sense of self and disappointing myself and where I set myself to be. I don't know. That's some very deep stuff. I am metacognitively aware of, like, the stupidity of the whole situation and all the stuff going on in my head, but it's causing me a lot of anxiety nonetheless. And like I mentioned, you know, my new career is in public service, which is very different than what I did my bachelor's in. It's also, I think, it conflicts a little bit with my natural personality, because, you know, being an introvert, I like being in my own bubble. I like doing kind of smaller, enclosed things in my space, and public service asks of you to be very social. It's a social job. Much of your job is about interacting with people, with making, building, working on relationships, and that is so draining on top of being nervous. You know, when people say you fake it till you make it, I'm very good at faking it, because the people I went to school with, you know, when I changed my careers, and the people I worked with in my last contract, they all felt like wow, she has her stuff together, you know. But really, I am petrified on the inside all the time. You just don't know it. So I've got the first part down, the faking it, but haven't made it yet. So still a lot to work on there. And I guess on top of everything else, on top of worrying if I'm going to get the next contract, where that's going to be, where that's going to take me, how I'm going to transit there, because I can't drive yet. You know, things like that, not being late for work. I'm also worried about having to work on my personal relationships. I have mentioned that I currently live at home, which is great. Thanks, Mom and Dad. But at the same time, my personal relationships are not at a place where I'm very happy with them. And there are certain aspects about it. It's just about different values, and it's about being brought up and grown up in different societies. That is causing a lot of friction between me and my parental units, shall I say. And it's nothing I feel like I could do anything about immediately, except accept them for who they are, even though they can't necessarily always accept me for who I am and the person I've grown to be, which is very upsetting. I think as a child, you know, you hope to please your parent all the time, especially in a very traditional family. I'll leave it at, I think my folks haven't really come to terms, especially with me being the first child, you know, and the one they brought over from the mainland, that I've grown to be a person with my own individuality, with my own values and thoughts, and especially being brought up in the Canadian education system and Canadian society for the most of my life, that I have slightly different values than they do, and that causes a lot of friction. And I think I'm at an age where some of that friction just becomes blown out of proportion, because they will always see me as their little one, whereas you know, I'm ready to be an adult. I'm ready to make adult decisions, and sometimes it doesn't sit well with their very traditional values. I'll leave it at that. For those of you who do come from traditional families, especially traditional Asian families, I'm sure you'll get the gist of things that, you know, you fight about, things that you argue about, things that they're displeased at you about, all kind of stuff like that. So just a whole lot of stuff rolled into one in my head right now, and right now I feel like everything is just up in my head. So anyways, that was kind of deep, but I thought it would be really therapeutic to just talk to you all about it. And if you have suggestions, if you have personal experiences, if you have advice on any of this stuff, even if it's just about merging into the next lane we are driving, leave me a comment. Throw me a bone down below. Throw me many bones, please. Need a little bit of support at this time, but I will talk to you next, probably on social media. Videos are coming. I filmed a new recipe, by the way, for those of you who like food. That's coming up. but there won't be any live film videos for a little while. So I hope that all of you will take good care of yourselves, because that's really important, and I will talk to you soon next time. Bye.